Marryn, the sweet pea queen. Welcome. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
How did you become the sweet pea queen that you are today? Like, what has your gardening journey looked like over the last couple of years or maybe even decades?
Oh man, okay, so in a nutshell, I worked in IT for 21 years and I sat in a cubicle all day and I loved who I worked with, but I did not like my job. And so when my youngest son was born, we just took that opportunity to do like a complete reset. And at that point, like I hadn't discovered flower farming yet. And so I was the mom of two very young boys. They're only 13 months apart. And I just like to say that the flowers kind of found me because through a series of events, I discovered flower farming and then went down the rabbit hole like we all do with those beautiful photos. And just, I was completely
Mhm.
enamored with it. And I hadn't even done any gardening. I have no gardening background whatsoever. Like we had a small
Wow.
vegetable
So
garden in our backyard.
you went from
Yeah.
no gardening to professional farming.
It's taken a while to get there, but yeah. So I just had a tiny vegetable garden in my backyard and two hanging baskets, and that was it. Like I had never grown flowers before. And yeah, and then, that was in 2018. So here we are.
Wait, so like what was that opportunity though? Like did someone just gift you like a billion dahlia tubers so you were like, I guess I'll figure out how to grow these? Like how do you go from having two hanging baskets to, yeah, I think I am going to be a flower farmer.
Well, I've always been like 100 mile, mindset on something. I'm just like that goal, like I am tunnel vision, like making sure that that is accomplished. So my first season, I started out with 350 dahlia tubers, and I wanted to grow every other cut flower that I could possibly get my hands on, and so that included a bunch of sweet peas. And then my next season, it's like this addiction, I mean, every flower, but sweet peas and dahlias pretty much for me.
Mm.
So the next season it was 1,500 tubers and it was 5 rows of sweet peas instead of one. And,
And
so it's just kind of continuously grown throughout the years.
did you have the land to farm or you had to go buy land to start this flower farm?
So originally we just lived in a house in town. And that's actually one night when we were listening to the neighbors argue next door because they were so close to us. We just
Hmm.
decided we were going to do it. We were going to be flower farmers. And so it took a while for us to find our forever farm. So our first plan was, to find a little white farmhouse on acreage in North Stanwood. But like that was like the fixer upper craze, right? So everybody was buying these farms off market and all of that kind of stuff. So I remember sitting in the back seat of our minivan. I had fruit snacks in one hand and a bottle in the other, like, making sure the kids were okay in their car seats. And, we were just praying to God that around every corner would be our forever farm, and we just couldn't find it. So we bought 5 acres in a neighboring community from Stanwood called Camano Island, and we moved into a 28-foot travel trailer. It was raw land, and that's where we did our first 2 seasons of flower farming. So
Really?
it was yeah, yeah, yeah. We were pretty much homesteading our first 2 seasons, and then one night something told me to check Redfin, and we had designed our house, we had gone through the permit process, we had cleared the land, we had done all the things, and we had just finished the foundation. And I looked at Redfin and it was like 9:30 at night, everybody was asleep, and it was the second house on the list, and it had been active for 4 hours, and it was the house that we live in now, and it was a little white farmhouse on acreage in North Stanwood. So the
Whoa.
bank thought that we were nuts, but yeah, so we went from 5 acres originally where we had the travel trailer to now we have 10.
And are you flower farming on 10 of those or how many
Hmm.
acres is your farm?
I would say combined it's 3.5.
Hmm.
But if you combine like all the greenhouse space, all of the fields, all 7 of my sweet pea patches, all of that, I would
Hmm.
say it's probably about 3.5 acres.
Wow. How did you learn to grow the flowers if you hadn't had the gardening experience? And obviously, even growing your home cut flowers for a gardener is different than like growing gardeners at flowers at scale. Did you take classes? Did you hire a consultant? Like, how did you get the farm up and running?
So I read every book that I possibly could find,
Okay.
and then I took an online course, and basically that was it. Like I'm one of those that I really learn best getting my hands dirty and experiencing it. So like I
Hmm.
said, my first season I wanted to grow everything.
Hmm.
And then it's kind of, become more tailored as we've, grown and experienced different things. Like calendula and bachelor buttons, I grew those my first season. I probably won't grow those again.
Got it.
But, you just learn what sells, what you don't like what doesn't sell, like just all the things as you get further and further and further along in the journey, and just what the response is, and just finding your niche, right? Like I've become known for sweet peas because that's where my passion is.
Hmm.
Dahlias are a close second, but that the sweet peas are, they truly, truly have my heart. So
Mm.
yeah, the response to the farm has just been incredible. So just, it's kind of a testament to, where hard work can really get you.
Yeah, everything is figure outable. It's a
Yes,
great line.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, are you growing flowers and selling flowers to florists, or are you growing flowers only to then harvest seeds to then sell seeds? Because I know you obviously sell seeds and tubers on your website.
Yeah. So we started out doing cut flowers and selling to florists, doing weddings, doing, bouquets out of our farm stand. But once, COVID hit, we kind of transferred into more of a seed production business model. And now
Hmm.
this year, we're still going to do seed production, but also I'm really looking forward to getting flowers back into the community just because, as our business has grown and shifted more into shipping and just all of the things across the United States, I feel like, we weren't able to do the cut flowers as much. So we're
Hmm.
not doing weddings anymore. And I have a few florists that I sell to still, but we're really trying to get back into just local cut flowers as well, on
Yeah,
top of the seeds and all that other good stuff.
that's really cool. Are you breeding? Are you creating sweet pea varieties?
Yeah, so that's a really exciting. I feel like that's kind of like the next step for me.
Mm.
And so I'm happy to report all of my hand crosses that I did this last season produced viable seed, and now those seedlings are growing in my greenhouse right now. So stay tuned. I'm so
Oh my
excited.
God.
Yeah,
So breeding must be a multi-year thing because you cross-pollinate to see if you get a seed. Then the following year you have to grow that seed out
right.
to see
It
what
takes
the
many,
plant is.
many years. Yeah.
Right.
So unlike dahlias where you can, harvest the seed, you grow out the seedling, and then usually they say, 3 to 4 years you can put a new variety out on the market. Sweet peas are much more intricate than that
Mm.
because you have to do the hand crosses. You can't let the bees don't do it for you. You actually have to do it yourself. And then harvesting that seed, planting that seed, growing, seeing what comes out of it. And then, hopefully you'll be able to get some seed production out of it, even if it's just a few seeds, because all you need is that one pod, right? And then you have to grow that out and grow that out and grow that out and make sure those genetics stay true. And then you actually, in order for it to be a named variety, they have to grow it in the trial garden over in England. So, yeah, so you have to send your seed over there. And then, that's a whole complex process in itself. So, get that seed entered into the trial garden, and then they have to grow it out. And then it goes through multiple, trials and all of that kind of stuff over there. So, we're talking, I mean, years
Wow.
before a sweet pea variety actually goes out on the market.
That's so cool. Okay, sweet peas. Let's dive in. Why do you think they're so iconic? I mean, there's like lore behind them. They're such a fixture in the garden. They're such an iconic age-old flower. Like, why is there so much hype around them?
Well, I'm hoping to give them more hype because I really honestly feel that sweet peas don't get the attention that they deserve. And
Hmm.
that was really my passion behind my book was, you're seeing all of these books out there, on peonies and ranunculus and garden roses and just all of those other garden flowers, but I'm like, where are the books about sweet peas?
Mm.
So I think there's so much emotion that is evoked with this one little flower, and it's so nostalgic, but also so many people have these wonderful memories with sweet peas. And
Mm.
so I've seen so many people over the years, they just bury their nose into a bouquet of sweet peas and they're just transported back to, their first flower memory as a child or their grandmother's garden. But also just there's nothing like sweet peas,
Hmm.
just their scent, the way they dance in the breeze, just, they're just an incredible, incredible flower that so many people can relate to. So I feel like they're, like I said, they don't get the attention that they deserve just because they're quintessential. Like I think so many people kind of overlook them because they've been in gardens for centuries. They have
Right.
such a rich history that it just people are like, oh, sweet peas, but why are we not talking about them?
Yeah.
They've withstood the state, the the yeah, they withstood
The test of
time.
time. There's a
Yeah.
people in the house. I come from the houseplant side, and people in the houseplant side talk about it too. It's like one of my hobbies is I collect like vintage houseplant books from the 70s, and your grandma's like African violets and ZZ plants and
Yeah.
snake plants. Like there's a reason why they've been grown in every single cycle of the
Right.
houseplant craze. Back into the Victorian glass house era when everyone had houseplants. Like there's a reason why some of these plants withstand the test of time. It's because they're
Right.
hardy and they bring a lot of joy. Now,
Yeah.
sweet pea, wasn't there a sweet pea scent at Bath and Body Works?
There was. Everybody tries to replicate it and nobody has. But Bath
I
and Body
that
Works also made a dahlia scented lotion and dahlias don't smell. So,
that I think that you I think that sweet pea, like when I was in middle school, I think that was like my first perfume was the sweet pea like
yeah.
body spray.
Yeah.
You mentioned
Nobody's been able to nail it. So if somebody out there can nail, I mean, I've talked to many, many different people to see if we can recreate the fragrance and they just can't.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm anxiously awaiting the
yeah.
day that somebody can 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 produce that.
That's amazing. So you mentioned history. There is a lot of history and lore
Mhm.
around sweet peas. Can you share some like fun facts or like historical tidbits about the flower?
Sure. So people actually, they correlate sweet peas with England when in
Mm.
all actuality they were discovered in Italy. They were discovered back in the late 1600s by a Sicilian monk. His name was Cupani, and he was literally walking in the hillside. He was a botanist. And he discovered these wild growing sweet peas, which are the perennial sweet peas. They're very short, very different than your Spencers and all of those varieties that we know and love today. But the story goes is that he collected a few seeds from those and then sent them to his gardener friends that were, in Europe, and that's kind of where the lineage from sweet peas comes from. So it's a big, big family tree. And as I was writing my book, I just kind of kept thinking about him and what, all those years ago, like, did he realize what he was onto? And if he could
Mm.
see today, like, what he started,
Hmm.
just how amazing that would be, or like what it was like, what were the thoughts that were going through his head when he discovered this beautiful, beautiful little flower. Yeah, so I just really am intrigued by how they were discovered, and yeah, just where they came from, where they came today. Just, and I'm so thankful to all those people that have done the hybridizing and the breeding and done all of that work just to bring us these wonderful cut flowers that we know and love.
Why are they associated with England? Just because they became fixtures in like cottage gardens?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many people are, they just associate them with English gardens. Just a lot, Roger Parsons is over in England. There's so many sweet pea growers and breeders that are over in England.
Okay.
So I think just a lot of people, it's just that natural correlation.
Okay, that makes sense. And then were they always grown as cut flowers, or were they more grown for like whimsical garden fixtures with scent and then migrated into the cut flower industry?
So they migrated into the cut flower industry because they were originally that perennial low-lying sweet
Right.
pea. So there's actually over 150 different species of sweet peas out there, believe it or not. So
Wow.
like I said, the family tree is vast, but they were very, very different. So over the years, they've been hybridized and bred to also, bigger flowers, longer stems, more fragrance, all of
Hmm.
those kinds of things. So there's been a lot of hybridizing and a lot of work that's gone into creating those beautiful varieties we know.
Yeah, as I was clicking through your website, I noticed you have like fragrance level 3.
Hmm. Yep.
Walk me through like what are the key differentiators in the 150 sweet pea species? Like how much scent can you get? What is that scale?
So sweet peas have a scent range from 1 to 6. So
Okay.
one being very little fragrance, if any, and 6 being like literally dripping with sweet pea fragrance.
Mm.
So it depends on what you're growing for. So some people, like, backyard gardeners, they just want that fragrance, right?
Hmm.
So I, in fact, was talking to a garden club this last week, and a lot of them just wanted to grow them in their backyard. They didn't necessarily want to grow them for cut flowers. They wanted to grow them just for the fragrance. So if that's what you're looking for, then you want to go for those grandiflora varieties that are just going to be smaller flowers, shorter stems, just literally dripping with sweet pea fragrance, versus your Spencer varieties. They range all over the board as far as fragrance level goes, but those guys are known for their long stems, their large flowers, 4 to 6 blooms per stem. So there's also, those are the ones that we're more familiar with these days.
Mm.
But there's also all sorts of wild sweet peas, perennial sweet peas. There's non-tendril varieties. There's dwarf sweet peas. There's a sweet pea for for
For
anyone, no
everybody.
matter what your gardening situation is. So yeah, so there's a really wide range of varieties that it's kind of all over the board for sweet peas.
And where are sweet peas perennial?
Oh
I guess
goodness.
let me
So we have,
know.
yeah, we have perennial sweet peas here. Now they
Mhm.
grow, and we're in the Pacific Northwest, so we're zone 8B. But it really just depends on, where you're at. So we have sweet peas that'll grow on the side of the road here, but they're
Mhm.
very different than the sweet peas that I grow in my, on my flower farm. So they're just more low lying. They don't have really much scent to them, but they'll come back year after year after year.
Mhm. The iconic, I guess the Spencer ones, it sounds like, are what a lot of people are trying to grow in their gardens.
Hmm.
What
Yes.
about those Spencer ones? So where are those perennial versus annuals?
So those are always annuals. So
Always
if you,
annuals. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have to have like I mean, all sweet peas are really, all the cut flower sweet peas, I should say, are treated like annuals. There are perennial sweet peas, but I don't grow any of those on
Got
our
it, got it, got
farm.
it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
are
So,
they a cut and come again style flower or it's
yep,
one snip
yep.
and you're done?
No, they're cut and come again. So the more you cut them, the more they grow. And in fact, because they're a cool flower, anything over 80 degrees, sweet peas are naturally going to, start to shut down on their own, which means they're kind of going to go into that seed production mode. So I always tell
Hmm.
people, like, if you want to keep cutting your flowers, you don't want them to set seed, just keep cutting them and they'll keep growing. But like I said, anything over 80 degrees and they're kind of like, I'm out. We like it cool. So, but yeah, they're incredible, incredible plants.
Yeah, I live in South Florida now. I'm in zone 10B. So I was looking into like, can I even grow them? And I can grow them during my winter, but no way in hell I
Yes.
can grow them in my summer.
No.
Yeah.
And you'd need to fall sow them. You'd need to grow. So that's what I love about this journey that I'm on and sharing my love of sweet peas, is because so many people out there are like, I can't grow them. But there's just a few tiny things that you can tweak, because it's instinctive. We're following people on social media. We're not
Hmm.
thinking about like what our growing zone is doing, what our conditions are. We're just seeing what other people are doing. And so many people are not successful in growing sweet peas the first time because they're not doing the right things for their zone. So
Hmm.
that's where I love like the challenging environments like 10B, like you're at, or the southern states, Texas,
Hmm.
Louisiana, Arkansas, all of those guys, because a lot of people just think that they need to start their seeds in the winter or the spring. And for you guys, in order for you guys to see flowers and to be successful, you need to fall sow your sweet peas, and you also need to grow those early flowering varieties because you need to get that jump on Mother Nature. So a lot of people
Hmm.
don't know, like, the early flowering varieties, they only take 10 hours of sunlight to induce the bloom cycle. So that'll give you a jump on Mother Nature because you guys get so hot. So that was a lot of information, but
No, that's super
really,
helpful.
yeah. So if you're growing in a challenging environment and you're out there listening to this, like, try sowing and using those early flowering varieties. And I guarantee you that you'll be way more successful than, starting them in the winter time. And then you're growing the Spencer varieties, which will take 12 hours of sunlight to induce the bloom cycle. And then, you're not even going to see flowers. You're just going to see, plants, and then they're going to fizzle out because it's going to get too hot. So,
Yeah.
like I
So
said, there's little.
yeah, so okay, this is very interesting. Do you recommend, you're mentioning fall sowing, do you recommend starting sweet peas from seed or do you recommend like getting them as seedlings at your garden center?
Recommend starting them from seed.
And how do you start
Absolutely.
them from seed? What do they need?
Just, honestly, sweet peas are not finicky. A lot of people think, you've got to get seed starter and all those things. I use Pro Mix for mine, but you can use potting soil. You can use, your regular dirt in your garden. You can direct sow. There's so
Starter
many
mix.
different, yeah,
Mhm.
whatever you have available. I'm a huge believer in that. So if you're, you've got potting soil, use potting soil, because the
Mhm.
sweet peas, like, the seed is so large that you don't have to worry about, them fighting through that dirt and giving them like a looser material to grow, because they're so large that they're off to the races. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some seed trays that I have where honestly I like to think that they're so excited to see me. But
Mhm.
like, they're literally springing out of the seed tray because those root systems are so strong that they're just like, boing, we're here. kind of thing. So I just recommend whatever you have at your disposal, use that. You can use, we use 50 cell trays here on our farm. You can use a 4-inch pot. You can use toilet paper rolls. You can use root trainers, whatever you have at your disposal. Just poke a hole in the soil, an inch deep, plop one seed in, cover it up, give it a good water. 10 to 14 days, you'll see germination, 50 to 55 degrees. So remember, that's the key thing to remember with sweet peas is that they like it cool. They do not
Oh,
like
so
it warm.
no heat mat, no germination
No
mat.
heat mat.
Okay.
No. And so that's where a lot of people also kind of make a mistake. So it's human nature, right, for us to nurture these babies, tuck them in, and just keep them warm and try to take care of them. One of my favorite stories to tell is when I was doing one of my online workshops and I was getting to this part of the presentation where we were talking about sewing, and I was just like, keep them cool, don't use heat mats. And this lady was like feverishly typing in the chat window, and she's like, just a second, I'll be right back, I gotta take them off the heat mat. So yeah, so that's kind of the number one mistake that people make when, if you've had lean and really lanky seedlings in the past, they're too warm and you're not giving them enough light. Those two things will stress out your seedlings and really set you off for a bad start with your sweet peas. So keep them cool, no heat mats, and 50 to 55 degrees. And yeah, and do not bottom water also. So just give them a good drink and let them do their thing.
So if I'm in a hot garden zone and I'm starting them not in the winter, how am I getting that 55 degrees? Am I like putting them in the fridge?
You can put them in like a damp paper towel if you want. And you've seen a lot of people doing that where they just put their seeds in a wet paper towel, and then as soon as they get, germination, then they'll put them in the soil at that time. So if you don't have, I mean, if you want to fall sow your sweet peas, let's say like I would say late October, early November for you guys, just keep them as cool as you possibly can. If you've got an air conditioned room or something like that you can put them in, just because you're not growing a huge quantity, like we are on the farm where I've got 40,000 seedlings in my greenhouse. But honestly, keep them as cool as you possibly can, and they'll be just fine. As long as they're
Okay.
not like 100 degrees, they'll be fine.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But don't encourage heat. Don't make it
Right.
80, 90
Yeah.
degrees.
No heat.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Keep
from
them as cool as
germination,
possible.
so you said 1 to 2 weeks germination, and then how long until you're seeing flowers?
Oh goodness, it really depends on your weather. It really
Okay.
does, because they'll grow slower in the cool temperatures.
Mhm.
So, just for example, like I started my seeds in January. Again, we're getting down into the 20s, 30s, 40s, sometimes 50s during the day right now. But I'll see flowers depending on the variety also, because the early flowering varieties will give me flowers sooner. I'll see flowers in June. So, January to June. But then if I'm fall sowing my sweet peas in November, I'll see flowers in May. But again, they're going to be growing all throughout the winter, and they're going to be growing a lot slower just because of the cooler temps. So I know a lot of people are like,
Yeah, 6 months. Forget
I
that.
know.
Right. But right. And are you seeding them? Are you direct sowing them into your beds, or are you starting them in some sort of controlled environment?
So all of mine are in a controlled environment for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm a control freak.
Hmm.
And two, I really like to consider my sweet pea patch the high rent district of the farm because we
Mm.
are production based,
Right, right.
especially for seed. So I want every available spot to have a healthy seedling. But if you're just growing them in your garden, you can direct sow. But also be aware that, those seeds are little morsels to, pests and
Hmm.
all of those kinds of things. So just really take that into consideration as well. But here in the Pacific Northwest, we get a lot of rain. And so sweet pea seeds can rot very easily. So I also like to take that variable out of it as
Mm.
well, just,
To get them more
because
established first.
exactly, exactly. So not saying that you can't do it, it's just something to think about.
And for a home gardener, if I decide to start them indoors, when should I be transplanting them? When there's true leaves, when there's more leaves? Like, how big should I let the plant get?
So you're going to want to let the plant get at least 2 to 3 sets of leaves, and then you're going to pinch out that center node. And then
Okay.
as soon as that happens, then you can go ahead and plant. So I literally will pinch mine as I'm planting. I'm planting usually in March. Now that's another thing about sweet peas is when they're grown cold, they're tougher plants and they can withstand a frost and a freeze, no problem. So I love telling this story. So I had a full unheated greenhouse full of seedlings, probably 20,000 plants. Okay.
Oh
We
my
got down to
God.
9 degrees. Yeah, we got down to 9 degrees. I didn't use frost cloth or anything. The plants were just rock hard, crunchy. The soil was frozen, everything was frozen. And within 2 hours of the sun coming out, you would have never known. Everybody was unthawed and they were right as rain. So sweet peas, the
What?
flower, just this, reputation for being these fragile things, which they are. But the
Hmm.
plants, when they're grown cold, are really, really tough.
Whoa. Well, that's a
Yeah, they're
huge selling
amazing.
point for gardeners too, because,
Totally.
with your dahlias, the first frost you get, that's it,
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
They're
really
very
interesting.
different.
Okay, interesting,
Very
interesting.
different.
So, what are other tips that you have for growing sweet peas for beginning gardeners who might want to try for the first time?
So keep them cool. Again, germination key 50 to 55 degrees. Also, think about where you're going to plant them. Location is really key. So they can handle full sun, but just think about if you've got an area that gets full sun till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and then get some afternoon shade, they will
Mhm.
last a lot longer than if they were in full sun. So I wouldn't recommend like necessarily planting them on the side of your house that's going to get just pounded with the afternoon sun and the afternoon
Mhm.
heat. Just really keep that in mind. So my first season of flower farming, it was totally beginner's luck. I wish I could say I knew what I was doing, but I put my row of sweet peas on the far side of my garden, and it got full sun till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it was given. I mean, we were in the middle of forest basically. It
Mhm.
was given shelter and shade from the trees. And I was harvesting on a 12-foot orchard ladder in October, and I was still getting cut flowers. So,
Wow.
yeah, they're amazing. So just really think, where are you going to plant them? Now, I have, like I said, 7 different patches here on our farm. So I've kind of got, I've got my morning sun to afternoon shade. I've got my full suns. I've got, my bit of morning shade to afternoon sun. I've got all sorts of, different areas that we're growing in just so I can, kind of be the little scientist and see, who does better,
Mhm.
or what they like more. But really think about location, keeping
Mm.
them cool, and then they're heavy feeders and they're heavy drinkers. So you want to work organic material into your soil and you want to make sure that they get enough water.
Okay. Are you doing like irrigation that's right on top of the soil?
Yep, yep. So
Okay.
we use drip irrigation, and then so our beds are 2 feet wide, and then we put the support structure, the netting down the middle with the T posts. We use a T post and rebar combination, and then we
Hmm.
tie wire those together, and then we put our Horton Nova netting on top of. Attach that, and then I do 2 rows per bed. So I'll do sweet peas, netting, sweet peas, and then there's a drip line of drip tape on at the base of each row.
Of each. Okay. So there's
Yeah.
two lines of drip tape per bed.
Yep.
And talk to me about the netting because that seems they need to be trellised of some sort.
Yes.
Yeah. So as they
Yes,
keep growing,
absolutely.
how do you support them?
So netting is or any support is really key. Like if you're going to be using hog fencing, that's great. If you're going to be growing them along an existing chain link fence, that's fantastic. We use Horton Nova netting, which is great, but also that is also key. Make sure that your netting is strong enough to support the weight of those sweet peas because those vines will get very, very, very heavy as the season goes on. So once they get to a certain point and they kind of start to, flop over a little bit, and probably about 5 feet tall.
Hmm.
And then I go ahead. I use twist tie wire, and I've got that constantly on my tool belt at all times during the
Hmm.
season. And then I'll just because a lot of people are like, how do you get those long straight stems? Well, it's the support structure that you're giving them as well. So twist tie wire, and I'll just work it through the netting, pull it back, and then go around each vine. Sometimes I'll group them 2 or 3 together. I also will corral them using baling twine, kind of the same idea, with dahlias as well. But if you keep them as taut and as tight as you can to that netting, where do they have to go? Nowhere but up and out. That's how you get those
Hmm.
long, straight stems, that everybody wants for cut flowers. But yes, twist tie wire, corralling them, they're going to need some sort of support once they get to, a certain height. Just
Hmm.
because that netting isn't going to be, enough once they start to reach, little, I would say 5 feet.
Yeah, so if I'm growing them in just like a smaller garden bed and I don't have the whole like netting scenario, can I use like a tomato trellis or can I
Oh,
use
absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can use an obelisk, you can use an existing arbor, you can whatever is going to support them height wise is great. I mean, I've seen people put bamboo sticks together and make like a little
Hmm.
teepee in a pot. I've seen all sorts of different combinations. So kind of the possibilities are endless. So whatever you have to work with, whatever you can give them as far as, give them some height, they're going to be fine.
Okay. And are they a vining plant or they're like there's a main stem that all of the flowers shoot off of, like you said, and then you're attaching the main stem to the netting or your trellis, and then the supporting stems are going out.
So they're a vine, so they'll branch out and create more than just the main stem. So I will tie wire. Usually I'll tie wire the main stem, but yeah, I mean they're going all over the place. So yeah, they're a crazy vine.
Can I grow them on an arch,
Oh
like a
yeah,
cattle panel
absolutely.
arch, so that when you walk through, you get hit with that scent?
Yeah. So I call it our OG patch. So it's our
Mhm.
first sweet pea patch that we built here on the farm, and I've got 75-foot rows and they're right across from each other. So what we did was we took a cattle panel and bent it. So I've got a sweet pea tunnel
A
that kind of
tunnel.
goes, yeah, yeah. And it's amazing. So yeah, I would highly recommend a sweet pea tunnel.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Can I also like espalier them? Like if I wanted to have them at the entrance of my house so that like when you walked into my house, you got hit with that scent, could I like espalier them onto the side of my house?
You could try. I mean, I've personally never done it, but I mean, anything that they have to climb onto, they will. So as
Right.
long as you can give them some height,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would do just great.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. What are the biggest mistakes? I know you mentioned one before, but what are the biggest mistakes that you see people make when trying to grow sweet peas?
They don't start them at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're starting them like way too late, where they're
Mm,
starting all they don't, sweet peas need to be started early in the season. So they were actually the first seed that I started as a flower farmer,
mm-hmm.
my first season. And so I usually I'll kind of gauge for Valentine's Day, or I used to before I started growing 40,000 plants. Now I start them more in January. So I think, a lot of people will kind of push that just because they're like, oh, it's still winter time. But sweet peas like it cold and they get a much more successful start when you start them cold. So starting too late would be probably my number one.
What's the general rule of thumb for like how many weeks before your frost date?
Oh gosh, I mean, it just really depends. I would say 8 weeks
Okay,
at
so they
least.
are one of the
Yeah,
first for those
yeah,
gardeners in like the Northeast that, you're
yeah,
planting your garden at around
yes,
Mother's Day. You're starting, okay, 8 weeks. Got it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I would say that's one of the number one things is their timing is off. They're not
Mm-hmm.
growing the right varieties for their area, just because it's so easy to see those beautiful varieties, like King's Ransom and just all those beautiful Spencers. Kind of get lured in by them versus what is best for your zone. Kind of thing. So a lot of people, like I said earlier, in the South, they'll start their sweet peas in the wintertime and they're growing those Spencer varieties. I wish that I could like send them a note in their order that was just like, try these next time, kind of thing.
Because the
But
Spencer varieties aren't they're later bloomers. So you don't want the Spencer varieties.
right,
Or if you
right.
have a long growing season, the Spencer varieties would be perfect.
Yes. So we're lucky here in the Pacific Northwest, we can grow really anything.
I know.
Whereas, like I said, if you've got, I mean, I've also got friends that are in Canada in zone 3 and they've got a really short growing season, and so they are, challenged in that way. So there's all sorts of, different aspects when you need to start your seeds and what varieties
Hmm.
are going to work best for you and all of that kind of stuff. So that was also another thing in the book, like just teaching people, just you can do just a few things differently and it'll just be night and day difference with your sweet peas.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What are some cutting tips that you have for people?
Oh goodness. Okay, so don't pay attention to what people are doing on social media because I know. So fully blown flower. I mean, I love social media, but also at the same time, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So flowers photograph better when they're what we call fully blown. But if you're growing for cut flowers, you want to make sure that your customer has the longest vase life. So you want to harvest them when they have at least 1 to 2 buds at the end of each stem. You want to keep them as cool as possible. So sweet peas are not a flower that you can just cut a bunch of them, put them in a bucket at in your
Hmm.
garden and just kind of go on about your business. They need to be kept cool at every stage of the game. So put them in, just clear cold water, and then, just put them in your refrigerator or a cooler. If you're selling them for cut flowers, then you want to harvest them as late as possible, as close to the time that your customer is going to be picking them up as possible. And then I always tell my customers, if you can, put that mason jar of sweet peas in the refrigerator at night. Or, don't put it on a kitchen table that's just going to get pelted with, the afternoon sun. So just really thinking like how my customers can, that's the one downside to sweet peas, is the vase life isn't necessarily that fantastic, but there's things that you can do to get a few more days out of them.
So I know with some hardier plants, you're, making the trim up the stem as well as across. Are you doing that,
Correct.
or you're just doing a 45-degree cut to remove it from the plant and then that's it?
Yeah, you just follow the stem to the base of the stem where the stem meets the vine, and that's where
Hmm.
you cut it. Yeah, unless you're cutting for like foliage and you want that sweet pea foliage and you want those tendrils, then you can pretty much cut whatever you're comfortable with. But just for the flowers, you just want to at the base of the stem.
It's probably a stupid question, but is there any way to like preserve the scent or after you cut it, or like make the scent punchier, or no?
No,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it actually fades as yeah after
Right.
you cut them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about some varieties that you would suggest? Like, what are your workhorse varieties that the most people would have success with if they were to try growing from seed for the first couple of years?
Wow. They're sweet peas are all workhorses just because they have so many flowers. But it really depends. So if you're just wanting to put something in your garden, you just want that fragrance and you're not necessarily looking for cut flowers, but you want tons of flowers, look
Hmm.
for those grandiflora varieties and those semi-grandiflora varieties, because they're not going to get as tall as the Spencer varieties, but they're going to be loaded with blooms.
Okay.
And then if you're growing for cut flowers, oh man, there's so many good ones. Let's see. So Castle Wellen, she's a Spencer variety, and she's just this beautiful peachy, really light peachy pink.
Mm.
She's on the cover of my book, and I am absolutely just
Hmm.
obsessed with her. King's Ransom is great. That variety is really kind of taken and knocked the sweet pea world on its head, basically. It's kind of how the dahlia craze, it's just people are bananas. That's kind of translated over into the sweet pea world with King's Ransom. It's just this beautiful shifting variety that starts off like a really soft creamy peach, and then ends like this smoky plum. So it's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, it's not the best seed producer, so it's really hard to find seed of or get seed of, because I mean it's snatched up like that. Blue Shift is also a really great variety, so we call that the tie-dye flower. So every flower is pretty much different on that plant. So it ranges from turquoise to navy to fuchsia, magenta, so
Oh,
many different. Yeah.
very few blue flowers out there too. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, it's so cool. So that one was bred by Dr. Keith Hammett down in New Zealand, and yeah, he's really known for his color shifting varieties. So that one, and then some early flowering varieties for the people that need to grow those early flowering ones. Spring Sunshine Peach is a beautiful variety, really long stem length on that one. And then the early flowers come in like a series of colors within that series. So like the Winter Elegance, there's Spring Sunshine, all of those names should tell you like that variety is early flowering. So there's
And then it'll be like spring sunshine red or
yes,
whatever.
yes, yes, yeah. Yeah. So when like there's Winter Sunshine, and that has like cream, white, navy, light blue, medium blue, mauve, red. I mean, just
Wow.
all of those. Yeah. So the early flowering varieties, they don't have as many colors as the Spencers, but I think the benefits, for some people just outweigh the difference in color. So
Yeah.
you can't go wrong.
Oh, I'm gonna be all up in your early variety. So can I search early blooming on your website?
Yeah. So it also says in the product description what type it is, and it'll say early flowering
Early
as well.
flowering. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the word I'm
Mhm.
looking for. That's amazing. What other flowers do you grow besides sweet peas?
Goodness. So we grow 8,000 dahlias,
Insane.
and just, yeah. Yeah. And then all sorts of other cut flowers that we grow for seed. So cosmos, zinnias, all sorts of cresses, status, I mean, coreopsis, oh man, buplurum, agrostema, like all sorts of, I mean, you
Hmm.
name it. If I love it, I'm growing
Yeah,
it.
that's amazing. That's so cool. And tell us more about your flower farm. Can people visit it, or is it really just something you can go check out online? Where can people purchase from you? All of those things.
So our website is thefarmhouseflowerfarm.com, and so we sell all of our seeds, dahlia tubers. We do also do bulbs, so tulips, daffodils, anemones, ranunculus, all those kinds of things, as well as seeds, sweet pea seeds. And then our farm, we aren't open to the public unless it's a specific like on-farm event that we're doing,
Okay.
just because it's where we live as well. So we're trying to kind of maintain some healthy boundaries for our
Hmm.
family with our little kids. But we also have, stay tuned because we're actually opening up a storefront here on the farm so that people can come and shop and yeah, and
Ooh.
get flowers and
And get
all of
bouquets?
that. Yep, yep. So you heard it here first.
Exclusive, Growing Joy exclusive. And
Exclusive.
so that'll be like a roadside, like they can kind of just drive by and pick stuff
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. So when we first started growing flowers, specifically on this farm, it's an old Model T garage that they had, and it's right on the road. And so when we bought the house, I was like, this is a perfect farm stand. And so, but like I said, as the farm has grown, I just didn't have the bandwidth to do both the cut flowers and then all the other things as well. And so now this year we're getting back to kind of basically back to our roots, but we're kind of up in the game a little bit. So we're going to have a little boutique storefront, and then people can buy flowers from us and that kind of
That
stuff as
is
well. So
so cool.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And
I
if you
can.
ever want to come stay,
Mhm.
we bought the house across the street and turned that into a rental. So we're actually launching that in a few weeks as well, so people can come and stay and yeah. So and
Enjoy
watch
the
us weed.
flowers. Wow, that's so
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my gosh. Man, you flower farmers, I'm so impressed. And it must just be, it's such grueling hard work, but like how joyful just to be surrounded, not just by flowers, but by fragrance all day. Like,
Oh,
what a dream.
I've never worked harder in my life, but I've
Yeah.
never been more fulfilled in what we're
Yeah.
doing. Like our favorite thing to do as a family is, I mean, like my kids get to see this. Like they get to experience this. They're in it just like we are. So after dinner, like in the summertime after dinner, we all go out and do a family farm walk. And just to see like yeah, I mean, it's the best. So, our dogs are following us, like the kids are, we're walking through the flowers, the boys are asking questions and, and stuff. It's just honestly, it's you yeah, there's nothing better.
I can just think about, I mean, your boys are so young, and I'm excited to be joining you into the Boy Mom Club. And I'm sure that, like, you
Yes.
never want to think about them dating people in the future, but like,
No.
imagine the bouquets they're going to bring to their
I
partners in the future
I
of
know. Well,
flowers.
yeah, I know. Their teachers have been the benefactors of some pretty amazing
I
flowers, I'm
bet.
just gonna
I
say.
bet. You must be the
But they
favorite
know.
parent of the classroom.
Well, they know. They're like, Mom, our girlfriends are gonna be so hooked up. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. You're like, shut up, you're never dating. And also, yes, this is very true. Yeah,
Well,
that is
and my
so cool.
husband's off the hook because he never has to buy me flowers.
I know. You got to find a new, a new collectible that you like. So you have something else.
Yeah, he buys me cows.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, we have Scottish Highlands.
Right.
So,
You have Highland
yeah,
cows on your property. I saw
yeah.
that in the video. I was like, oh my God, this is like paradise. I think rental is really smart if you can come and stay and then get to go like visit the cows too. That's
Yes,
so fun.
we're going to have different experiences so people can, if they want to come and feed the Highland cows or if they want to do like golden hour in the dahlias or, if they want like a flower bar set up and it's a girls' weekend or whatever, they can do that as well. So we've got a lot of fun things in store. Yeah.
Best bachelorette ever.
Yes, yes.
So fun. Well, you're a dream. I am going to be scouring your website right now for I'm having my baby in June, which is perfect because no one grows anything in Florida in the summer because it's so hot. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking in the fall that I might just do some cut flowers in my backyard. I just interviewed, do you know Sarah from the Culture Flower Farm?
Yes, from Suat. Yeah.
I just
She's
interviewed.
she's 20 minutes north of me.
Oh, cool. I just
Yeah.
interviewed her on Culture, and she's really got me thinking about the beds that I'm going to set up. I just bought a house, so the beds that I'm going to
Oh,
set up, and I'm like,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. I'm like, okay, if I set up the beds before the baby comes, then I'm going to like take my 3 months off in the summer.
Great.
And then in the fall, the beds will be ready. And then I think I'm just going to grow flowers because I'm going to be like
Yep.
postpartum. and I just want to like sprinkle seeds and see what grows. So I think adding some sweet peas. Dahlias sadly don't do very well down here, so I've heard,
Yeah, it's
which
too
makes me
warm.
very sad. Yeah,
I know.
but I feel like a fall planting of sweet peas is in my future, so I'm going to be scouring your
Yes.
website for sure.
Yes. Well, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to help. Like, I get so invested in my customers and their
Yeah,
success, specifically with sweet peas, that I'm just like, email me your questions. Like,
yeah.
it's so much more than a workshop to me when I teach this or talk about this. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, or if I can help you in any way, let me know. We got to get you
Oh
some
yes,
sweet peas, girl.
and you have a book and a course, Sweet Pea
Yeah.
School. We should plug that.
Yep.
Available
Yep.
on your website, and we'll link to it in the show notes. Yeah, I'll keep you posted on my sweet pea journey and let you know what varieties I choose.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'll hook you up. We'll talk.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Growing joy.